welcome to another Checiegirl Art Chat. So before we get into the podcast, I thought I would just remind you guys about the workshop I have coming up next Saturday. It's a beginner art journal workshop where I'll show you how to make a journal from start to finish, as well as some techniques of how to further decorate your journal once you take it home. So links to that workshop will be down below. There's still a few more days before the cutoff points, so you can book tickets. And lunch and drinks are all included in the price, as well as materials, so all you have to do is bring yourself. I also have a workshop coming up in November, a mixed media ornament workshop, where I'll show you how to make a ornament from start to finish using quite a few mixed media techniques, and that is also beginner friendly. And I also have a market coming up tomorrow. It's Maidstone Market. It starts at 9, ends at 2. So if you're in the area, I would love if you would check it out. And all those links to the workshop and the market, if you want to find out some more information, will be down below in the description. So on with the podcast. So since there are quite a few art challenges coming up, like Inktober and November, I thought I would share some tips on how to make completing them a little bit easier. And before I get into the tips, I would just wanted to say that art challenges are supposed to be all about experimenting, being challenged by the prompts, and having fun. You don't have to create a finished illustration or a zine or a story out of them. You can make it as involved as you want. It can be as simple as a daily doodle or a full-on illustration, whatever you want and whatever you can make time for, because sometimes we may not always have time to make finished illustrations every day, with work, just life in general, really, studying, all sorts. So I thought I would just say that just before we get into the tips. So what I'll share, you can adjust to suit yourself. Kind of take it or leave it, whichever will work for you. And these tips are especially if you are planning to do quite a big project connected to these challenges. So to prepare for the challenge, I recommend a few things. You don't have to wait for when the challenge starts to do any preparations. If I'm going to do an art challenge, I would maybe a couple weeks before it's going to start, I would maybe brainstorm what I want the illustrations to look like, do some sketches, especially since the prompts, especially with Inktober, I know the prompts are released quite a few weeks before October actually starts, so you can definitely get some prep in there, so you can decide what illustration you want to do for each prompt. You can do quick sketches. You can plan out a sketch for each one and then sketch beforehand, so that when it comes to the challenge, all you have to do now is add line art or color, paint, whatever it is you want to do. Having all the sketches done beforehand means that you don't have to sketch on the day. You can just paint or whatever, and you can do the sketches kind of all in one go, kind of, spread it over a few days before the challenge, so that you're not fitting too much into your day, especially if you do have quite a busy schedule. I know for me, sometimes sketching can be quick or it can take forever, so I like to sketch things beforehand so I can just get in to it when it the prompt day comes. And you can also make your own prompts, if you know that you want to do a challenge and you may not like the prompts that are provided, you can make your own prompts. You can make your own prompts way beforehand, so you have even more time to plan, especially if you do want to do a big thing like a zine or an illustration every day. And there are also loads of other prompts done by other artists as well, so you can kind of look around, see which one kind of sparks your inspiration the most. And then what I would also recommend is to pick the supplies you want to use, especially if you want all the illustrations or doodles or anything to look cohesive and look like they're in a series. If you are planning to say make it into a zine, I would say pick the same paper and materials you're going to put onto it, so you can swatch stuff beforehand. So how it'll work on the paper, especially when it comes to the paper. it'll be nice to kind of test out. Now, of course, if you don't have a bunch of supplies, use what you have. Like Inktober, you don't really need much. A pencil for sketching if you want to sketch beforehand, and a pen. You could literally use a ballpoint pen because it's ink. So, you don't have to like go out and get a bunch of supplies. You can very much use what you have. Um, and if you're just using, say, like a ballpoint pen, you can just use printer paper. So you can just kind of experiment and see what you want to use. And then you can like do your sketches beforehand and have everything ready for when the challenge starts. So then you can just get started. And yeah, so I would say those are the main tips. Like if you're working in monochrome, then I would say, especially if it's like inks, maybe practice a little bit before. If you're not used to the material and you like say you're using this challenge to not only challenge you for like the prompts, but also material wise, like maybe experiment it with it a little bit so you can kind of see like how it works. Like when I wanted to do the April showers challenge that I created, I wanted to use coffee. So I just kind of like did a bunch of swatches on paper to see if it would work. I also wanted to use like something else to add details, so I picked color pencils. I swatched what color pencils I wanted to use, so I knew what would work. And I also wanted to just check to see how many different tones I can get with the coffee. So basically, how many shades really of the coffee I can get from light to dark. And that's what I kind of experimented with. And then I was also wanted to have like a series of illustrations that's kind of like a story. So I designed my character for it. Um, like what she would wear, what she would have, and then I knew what I wanted. Now, what I did for that challenge was to sketch on the day, and that's when I realized I really should have sketched it beforehand. I did do thumbnails like before, so I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't do like sketches on the paper. I just did like the thumbnails digitally. Um, and yeah, so I would recommend sketching beforehand, especially if you have like a bigger project on your plate. And what I also did when I was going to do the illustration, I would like do a quick thumbnail like in my sketchbook and then see like where I wanted to have the colors, like what different tones, since it was all monochrome. And again, I could have done that all before so that I just had to just get started with it. And yeah, so that's really the majority of the tips I can think about. If you like have any other tips you would like to share, like what you think would work for you, please feel free to like put it down in the comments. It'll be cool to see like what other people do, especially if you've done quite a few art challenges. And yeah, so another thing I want to touch on is even with a lot of planning, things could still go wrong. Like I had my thumbnails planned out, but then I realized, oh gosh, I should have sketched beforehand. And then I had a bit of a hand injury like a few months before, and then I did a lot of the thumbnails kind of like quickly all in one day. And I've pressed really hard when I'm doing digital art. I've gotten better, but that was like I was still kind of new to it. So I ended up hurting my wrists way more. And then about I think 9, 10 days into it, I just couldn't do it anymore. My hand just wasn't I was in a lot of pain, so I had to step away from it, which is totally fine. I then went back a few months later and just like finished it all. And what I did was then I did all the sketches beforehand so I could just paint. And since I was kind of catching up, I just painted them all kind of like, I would paint a few in a day, like while I was waiting for one to dry. So, sometimes things happen and that's totally okay. The reason I went back to it is because I really wanted to finish the series of illustrations. But if you were doing like quick doodles and you don't mind, you don't have to do like the full 30 or 31 days at all. And sometimes I've spotted that some people do like 15 days one or like 14-day one. So like it's like half the illustrations, especially if you're going to do full illustrations. And I also picked a smaller format. I think it was like A6 paper. So there wasn't like too much to do. So a bigger format, of course, there'll be a lot more to do than a smaller format. And yeah, so I would love to do Inktober or Hughvember this year. I think it'd be really fun. I've always wanted to do Inktober and I really like Hughvember as well. I like the challenge of doing things like monochromatically. But I have a really busy schedule coming up. I'm like really busy in September with like the markets and the workshops, and then I have a bunch more markets and a workshop coming up like in the further months. So I'm not too sure if I'll be able to do any this year. What I might just do is to do simple doodles, especially for Inktober. I think I'll be pretty tired after September since I pretty much have something on every weekend. Um, but you never know. I might be able to do something, but I would love to do Huevember. I think I would be able to have enough time to plan to do a little something for Huevember. So we shall see. Um, but yeah, so I hope you found these tips were helpful. And it was a pretty quick podcast. I just wanted to kind of touch on a few things just in case you guys was looking at ways to plan for these upcoming art challenges. And yeah, and again, if you have any tips, please do share in the comments. Let me know if you've ever done any art challenges. Which ones have you done, or which ones were like your favorite, if you've done many. And if you'll be doing Inktober or November this year, because I think it'll be fun to do. I'm hoping that I'll be able to do at least one of them. So I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up if you're listening on YouTube, and click that bell so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. I'm sure you guys are aware now, I'm only uploading a podcast and a studio vlog a month. I may do random ones every now and again, but at the moment it's just a podcast and a studio vlog. So in a couple weeks, I will upload a studio vlog, and in that I'll have like quite a bit of stuff in it since I have a very busy month. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Thanks for listening. Bye.